YouTube, and Happy New Year! Not sure if I mentioned this in the previous video, but if I didn't, Happy New Year! For today's video, we got a question from Vixen Black on YouTube, and she wanted to know, how do you plan your novels? Also, thank you for all of your comments from our previous video. It's kind of insane how much support you guys have given. I was not expecting that. Melody says she was. I wasn't sure if you guys were gonna appreciate the videos just being, one person venture, and you guys are more than happy to stick around, even if for the time being it's just me. You guys said you missed us, and we missed you guys back so much. I am so glad that you guys approve, you're sticking around, you're not going anywhere, and already you guys are giving us ideas for future videos, so thank you. I'm really excited about this question. I know that Melody and we both have different process when it comes to how we plan our novels. Everyone has a different process on how they approach their novels. We are creative people, and as creative people, we approach our creativity differently, just like how we learn differently. When it comes to writing, your process may not look like mine. What we're hoping is that as I share my process for planning my novels, that perhaps it will help guide you into finding the steps that are going to work best for your process. Doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but maybe there are some steps that will motivate you and work for you, so I'm going to share those today. When it comes to how I plan my novel, I went through a lot of research. I went looking for different authors who luckily they blog their process, and I went looking for YouTubers. I scoured the internet to find just what it looks like for authors when it comes to planning their novel. Especially in the first manuscript that I really intentionally pursued, I was completely lost. I had no idea how to approach it. I used to write screenplays, and I used to do that as therapy. When it comes to a novel, it was a whole other ball game, and I wanted to see what that looked like. Post-apocalyptic supernatural. Currently, that is the manuscript I'm working on. That requires far more. I'm looking at a future date. I'm looking at a make-up history, a pretend history. I'm looking at world building and how extensive I decide to take that. There's so many details and elements that go into the foundation of a story like that I need a process, and I need to put time into it. So when it comes to idea, which is your concept, when it pops into your head, whether it was while you were sleeping, while you had a dream, while you were in the shower, while you were stuck in traffic, those moments where there's a random idea that comes into your head, and then that random idea festers and it grows and it becomes alive, and all of a sudden there's people and you can see them and you can visualize what they look like, what they're wearing. So you're like, I'm gonna write a novel about this. Once I have a concept and I have an idea that just won't leave me alone, and I know that it's gonna be something, you just know it's there, and you're like, this is it. When that happens, usually I will get a notebook, and I will designate that notebook officially for that specific project. And again, this says a lot about how people are different, and I am very much kind of old school. I like notebooks. I like to physically write and highlight and post-its. Some people love doing all that online. For them, they feel more organized, it's clean, they can put it all in there. That's great. Doesn't work for me. I guess I'm not a technology baby. I like physically having a notebook in hand. I like things I can tangibly mess around with, tweak, look at, touch, scratch out. I will start filling it with all of my research and details, my outline and everything. Once I have a notebook, I begin the research process. For example, again, I'm writing a young adult post-apocalyptic supernatural story. And when it comes to that, I need to do research. I need to understand certain elements that, may not come natural to me because I don't live currently in a futuristic world that has completely crumbled through anarchy and greed and is at its worst possible stage, and death and famine and stuff are, the norm. So I need to do some research on certain things, such as even survival and weapons. I need to break things down. So for me, one of the themes within my novel is actually human trafficking. It's interesting because it seems like a very heavy topic for young adult, but I really found a way that I feel I can incorporate it where it will be very raw, it will be a little dark, but it will still be appropriate enough for that age group. And I love the fact that it may start a conversation. It's something that I researched many, many years ago for a short film I was actually making with my best friend at the time. I didn't need a lot of research on that because I had already previously done my research for years. I completely immersed myself into the reality of human trafficking long time ago, but there were other things that I want to look into. For example, I start thinking about my main characters and I start visualizing them and I start looking, Pinterest is your friend. You start looking through Pinterest and you start finding images that capture your attention, and once you have a look of a character, you kind of start digging to find that. I also think of a location. Where am I setting my story? Is it a physical place? Currently, my story is set in a city within this country, so I like to go on Google Maps. I'll become a stalker on Google Maps and I will zone into a location and I'll actually look at the streets. I like to see what the streets look like, the names of them. All these things are just fun. I love the research process because that's when the story really becomes alive. It becomes a little more three-dimensional than it was before, which was just kind of like this puffy cloud of an idea, cute puffy cloud of an idea. When I've gotten to the place where I've done enough research that I feel is necessary to build upon, that's when I really kind of try to hash out what is my beginning, middle, and end. I need to kind of know. And when it comes to the end, I just need to know what is the goal? What does my character want? And will they get it? And if they do, what would that look like? And if they don't, maybe it's not what they really needed after all, and they end up getting something better. So once I have my beginning, my middle, and my end, that's when I kind of begin outlining. That's when I really break down what the story is going to look like for me. I usually take index cards, and what I like to do is I kind of write out the theme of what needs to happen in each chapter. Not each scene necessarily, but each chapter. I like to take index cards and I will have, for example, I have a prologue, and then I'll kind of just jot down general idea of what happens in the prologue. I'll mark a chapter and kind of what I want to happen in that chapter. Sometimes even in between, I'll just write a scene note or idea, so it's not even specifically a chapter, it can be a scene. Or sometimes I don't even mark chapters, I kind of just write scene ideas. So I'll just, write different scene ideas, post them on a post-it, and stick them on my board. I like to have what I call a plot board. I've seen other authors do it. That's where I got the idea from. I like to visually see something in front of me. I like the fact that with the index cards, I can grab them, shift them around. Maybe this scene or this chapter or what's supposed to happen in this chapter doesn't fit well there. I can move it around. I kind of have a general idea of what's going to happen in the story. I don't have 100% of every single detail or every single scene, but I have just enough to give me a nice map. So when I start the drafting process, I can start writing and I have direction, but I've left enough space in between to allow the magic to happen, where just you don't even understand it. It feels like your story takes a mind of its own. Your characters become self-sufficient somehow, even though I know that makes no sense because you're the one writing, you're their god. But still, you get so invested and these people, these characters become real people to you that you feel like they take over. Those are those moments that I leave open in between to happen only during the drafting process. But I need to have a nice foundation laid out for me so that as I'm writing, I know where I'm going. There's surprise nuggets up ahead, but I know where I'm going and I know where I'm supposed to end up. It helps not to fall into writer's block as much, though it will still happen that a scene that you had planned it's not happening. You know what's supposed to happen, but it's not working. It's not coming out. The words are nowhere. They're not flowing in your brain. They're not coming out on paper, and you don't understand why. Writer's block is possible at any point. But I have realized that as much as I can plan ahead of time to know again where my story is supposed to go, it does help when it comes to writer's block to kind of just avoid some of that. If I leave such an open gap and space of unknown story, I'm gonna sit hours and hours in front of the computer and just be like, doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. So once I have all that set, the fun part begins. The drafting process, where you actually sit down and just write your book. So let's review. How I plan my novel. Once I have an idea, I get a notebook. Once I have my notebook, I begin research. Once I start researching all the things that are coming up in my head about my novel, about my characters, about the world, about the situations, about details, like if I need to know how to use a gun, how to load a gun. I personally don't know these things, but that's the beauty of the internet, you research. Once I got that process going, that's when I start asking myself, what is the beginning, middle, and end of my story? Then I start outlining, and that's when I really get into the process of figuring out the foundation of where my story's gonna go before I write. That's when I start writing my novel. And then that's the process where we all lose our minds occasionally, and we stay up to the wee hours in pajamas and glasses and no makeup, and the magic happens. The magic. So that's how I plan for my novel. I hope that that was helpful for any of you guys. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free, comment below. I will be happy to answer any of your questions for you. If you like this video, that you guys give it a thumbs up. Thumbs up this video. Thumbs up this video. Okay. Also, if you guys haven't subscribed, subscribe wherever the subscribe button is. Click it. Click it. Click it. Click the subscribe. Click the subscribe button wherever the button is. Until next time. Bye. Drink all the coffee or tea. Caffeine. Absorb the caffeine. Be one with the caffeine.
Okay. For today's video, I actually... Hi. What steps to take to encourage you to... Yeah, I don't know. What was that? So sassy of you. Gosh.